Welcome to the podcast of Torres Consulting. So, welcome to another episode of Torres Hospitality Consultant podcast. I have the pleasure today of having Tiago Araújo, which is the CEO of HiJiffy. Tiago, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Pablo.
Thank you. A pleasure of mine to give me having the chance to have a conversation with you because I try to have different profiles in the show. So I've had GM, chief of marketing, branding, chefs, but I don't think I have a profile like yours. So I was really looking forward to have you to give the entrepreneur, the CEO, a view and on the travel tech, which you just mentioned, on how to open up the mind of the hospitality into the new tech that is available there. But before we go there, let's start from the beginning. You studied management in the university, and then from there, what happened?
So basically, when I ended management, my bachelorette, the only thing I thought of or that I wanted really to do was around digital marketing. This was more than 10 years ago. And at that time, I think I had no idea what digital marketing was, but I just told everyone that I wanted digital marketing. And I looked for opportunities within that same area. I'm from Porto. I was living in Porto or Porto up north in Portugal. And I found an opportunity within an agency, a marketing agency in Lisbon. The agency was growing quite fast. 95% of the revenue was coming from international markets, such as South America, Central Europe, and some part from Asia. And it was an amazing opportunity for me to really learn on what were the trends around digital marketing. At that time, I felt that within universities, there wasn't we didn't have any courses or things related with digital marketing. So I felt that I really needed to understand and to get to know better while working. So then what I did was I started working on this digital marketing agency. I worked there for 5 to 6 years. I managed to grow a lot from an entry position until managing a business development team. And it's where I met my co-founders, my current co-founders at HiJiffy. I don't know if I'm going too further in the way, Pablo, but if you want to, I'll continue just with the story.
Yeah, please carry on. Yeah, because that's the idea. So the whole motto of the podcast is to know the person behind the role. Okay, you're a CEO, co-founder of a company, but how to achieve that? So it's brilliant. Just keep going. Yeah, please.
Great. So I managed to manage a business development team, and at the same time, my current two other co-founders. So Jose, his background is he's a software engineer, and he was managing then the development team. So basically, he grew from an entry level until a manager of the development team, and Pedro, the other co-founder of HiJiffy, is a mathematician, and he was managing a media buying team. So he was buying ads through Google AdWords, through Facebook ads, and then he started on an entry level too, and managed a team. At that time, his team was already investing around €500,000 per month on Facebook ads and Google AdWords. So that was quite impressive. All taking decisions on analytics, return on investment, etc. After 5, 6 years, what we understood was basically, first of all, we felt that we couldn't grow more within the company. So the company wasn't able to create more opportunities. That it's quite normal. And we felt that we wanted our own company, that we had complementary skills. So from business to product to tech. And we had a passion around travel and the travel industry. And we didn't came from the travel industry at all. But what we felt was while traveling, we felt that the communication with these travel companies was always difficult, while actually planning our trips and wanting to contact an airline, a train company, a bus station, a hotel, etc. It was always complicated. We started with a completely different approach of what we have today. So the journey was quite big for us, and it was quite a good lesson. So we started by wanting to help people optimize or better plan their trips. And that's where we started our kickoff. That was Wanderroutes. Wanderroutes was a startup that we started, the three of us. And the main goal was to help travelers plan their trips better. So we had a mix of, or it could be considered like a marketplace, where we had from one side travelers that wanted help planning their trips, and on the other side we had what we called local experts at the time, that would help travelers better plan their trips. And when we started, we did really silly mistakes, as any other entrepreneur does. So first of all, first mistake was really developing the solution for 6 of 9 months and not talking with the markets, meaning that we were developing without measuring the pulse of the market and the actual needs. So when we came out with the platform, obviously, and putting it online and having initial metrics, there was a lot of things that we had to fine tune, and that could be accelerated in the past if we would have talked with more people. And basically, one thing that we understood, and going a little bit fast forward, was that when we started to promote the solution, so we started by a small segmentation of, okay, we want to help travelers that travel to Lisbon, for example, to plan better their trips, or travel to Portugal to plan better their trips. And what happened then was we started to promote, and we understood, okay, we want to promote it for Google AdWords for people that search for what to do in Lisbon. And we saw that the cost per click was around €1, €1.50. And we, as entrepreneurs of developing a solution now for 1 year, one year and a couple of months, we said, okay, €1, €1.50. I don't want to invest on this. I mean, for us to have real traffic, we're going to invest a good amount of money. And we understood, if we don't invest, then we can't just start knocking at investors' doors if the entrepreneur itself is not willing to invest. So that's where we understood, okay, so we need to find other ways of getting to travelers, and not through Google, but something more organic. We started to pitch it to Airbnb hosts, so meaning that they could use our platform for their guests, so that they could recommend a travel plan for their guests. And we really saw the problem, meaning that there's a lot of people actually asking hosts, Airbnb hosts, for tips to what to do in the city. But then the other thing that we understood was that most of the hosts have 1 or 2 apartments, and obviously they're price sensitive. They're not willing to pay for this kind of solutions, and they're not willing to try and sell stuff to their guests, because the part of reviews in Airbnb is quite sensitive. So that's when we started to pitch it to hotels, meaning we understood that a lot of people go to front desk of hotels to ask what to do in Lisbon, always with the example of Lisbon. And we understood, okay, we can automatize and we can monetize this request for hotels. At that time, we understood that, first of all, I mean, it was our first breakthrough around technology within the hotel industry itself. So meaning that we understood that it would be quite difficult for us to integrate whatever widgets within hotels' websites for a travel planner. And it was quite outside of what hoteliers were focusing on. That was more around direct bookings, obviously. And we understood too that obviously it's not the core business, or it's not something that the general manager is that worried about on what people do. And most of the people actually already come with their plan. And at that time, finally, something came up. Facebook launched the possibility of building a chatbot within Facebook Messenger. And Jose, our CTO, had an idea that was, okay, what about if we have a chatbot that is a travel planner for Facebook that would be implemented within the Facebook of hotels, and this would be easily implemented because they don't monetize their inbox on Facebook. This was 4 or 5 years ago. And then I said, yeah, that could be a good idea because it's quite straightforward to implement, and probably we could have our initial metrics. Then I pitched it to a couple of general managers, and the response was quite obvious. That was, this is brilliant, but it would be even better if it would reply to the inquiries that I receive on Facebook Messenger. That is around what is a check-in time, what's the checkout time, what's the cancellation policies, does the hotel have a pool, etc. And that's where we kicked off really HiJiffy. HiJiffy, when it started, it was a chatbot for Facebook Messenger for hotels. We understood that the market was too small, only being focused on a chatbot for Facebook Messenger for hotels. At that time, we got to an acceleration program that is invested by Mobile World Capital in Barcelona. So we moved the 3 founders from Lisbon to Barcelona. We lived there for 6 or 9 months. That's where we understood that the market was too small, and we started to open and understand, okay, we really need to be an all-in-one communication platform for hotels, meaning that all the communication channels need to go to one place, and we need to work on automatizing all the communication channels, and we need to measure everything. And then at the end of that program, we managed to close our pre-seed round of 350,000 euros. That counted with someone that is today within our board. That is Sébastien Lefebvre. Sébastien is a former director of growth of Twitter. He sold his own company to Twitter. He's French and he lives in Barcelona. He helped us a lot as a former entrepreneur, and he made to an exit to Twitter. So he knows a lot around exiting a successful startup. And we managed to grow then to where we are today, and the fast forwards by adding obviously fundamental functionalities for our clients. Today we work with 1,400 hotels in 30 different countries. In November last year, we closed seed rounds of 1 million euros. And this happened because in 2020, a little bit against the odds, we grew 150%. Okay, so we grew quite a lot, the company, during a pandemic where hotels are locked down, and I'm happy to talk about that too. And this is the amazing journey in a nutshell of where we are at, or where we came from and where we are at HiJiffy.
Wow, which is quite a journey. And it's like the stereotype of entrepreneur, right? So you study, you create your own company, you pivot, you develop a new company there, still young. And so what has it been to be a CEO? I mean, what is the daily life of a startup co-founder?
It's quite crazy, first of all, without any doubts, because one thing, you really need to love it, because you can be working on multiple things, I would say, in the same day. So things such as, for example, me personally, I'm more with sales and marketing, but I know that there are other CEOs, depending on the kind of product that they have, that could be more, for example, with products or even with tech. So basically, I'm more with the sales and marketing team, and I'm still leading the team for now for the size that HiJiffy has. But adding on top of that, you have other things to attend to. While you are growing your company, in the beginnings, it's not as fundamental, but then things start growing more and more. And even, I mean, HR starts to be a big thing. To make sure, one of the things that I have as most important as a CEO is to make sure that people in the company are really, really happy. And I know that this is quite cliche to say, but to be honest, like as a small organization that is fast growing, if we don't build right the foundations, then everything will collapse. So that's really, really important for me. And we still have a long way to go and a lot of things to do to make sure that we have these foundations around HR. So one of the topics that I do not on the daily basis, but weekly basis is around HR. Another thing that is a full-time job, a lot of other entrepreneurs told me this, but to be honest, I had difficulties to believe in it. That is fundraising. When you start a fundraising for the company, it's nearly a full-time job on getting that fundraising, all that paperwork dealt with, all those negotiations with investors, and you really need to be sure on how you're handling the rest of the team, and that you have managers to make sure that the day-to-day job is being well done, while you're mostly of your time is within fundraising. Obviously, when you're a VC-backed up company, another thing that you do a lot is to report to these investors, and it's not only reporting to investors, but adding on top of that, this report should be well aligned on what you think that is important for you to report with you, meaning to feel the pulse of the company and know on how things are going. So trying to see as an overview of the company on how things are going, from customer success to sales and marketing to products to operations of the company, that you're each different team within HiJiffy has their own roadmap, and making sure that everything is accordingly. Obviously, it's fundamental to delegate, and it's really, really important, but at the same time, you need to have an overview and on how things are being dealt with. And adding on top of this all, one thing that I always felt is, when you're starting as CEO, obviously HiJiffy is already in a different level, but you start with all the small things. If you want to send a postcard to one of your clients, it's you going to the mail to make sure that that postcard is delivered, right? So things have changed slightly in the past months, but in the beginnings, you do these small things while buying a laptop for a new hiring. It's you that do all that stuff in the beginning. And it's something that I was proud of and happy to make sure that my company that I started had all the needs, or the people that were hired had everything they needed to high perform.
Mm-hmm. So the less glamorous part, but hey, it's needed, and as you say, very proud of starting from there. So I mean, I want to ask you about, what is your favorite role within all the things you do, multitasking? You mentioned the first one was sales and marketing. Would that be your favorite part, sales and marketing?
Yeah, without any doubt. It's something that I'm passionate about for a long time. Before HiJiffy, I was already passionate about too. I love sales. I really enjoy thinking about the process on what's called nowadays software as a service company, B2B, trying to understand with other entrepreneurs on how they're dealing with, trying to understand the whole sales process as a mind map, and trying to build that mind map that is always being rebuilt and rethought. And that's something that I didn't mention before, but what I do on a weekly basis too is try to get some time to think ahead, right? To try and have, for example, Friday's afternoon typically is my afternoon that is completely cleared for trying to think ahead on things and not on day-to-day jobs. And on that point, trying to think on how to improve or how to be game changing on our sales process is something that I quite enjoy a lot. Another thing that I really love is being with potential clients, or really with clients, potential clients, and trying to understand better on their real problem and until where HiJiffy can go on solving the problem being bigger and the solution being, let's say, bigger too. It's something that I enjoy to pass along the feedback to the product team and trying to understand how we can prioritize all those functionalities that our clients or potential clients are asking for, and growing and going up the ladder on bigger and bigger deals for HiJiffy and bigger change for HiJiffy, and what is needed for us to get those chains.
That's a big statement, no? If you present me a bigger problem, I'm going to present you a bigger solution. Good one. Yeah. I like it. You mentioned briefly about the pandemic. So you say, well, 2020, 150% growth, which goes against all odds. So how do you see, I mean, have you seen it, and how you see the industry coming out of the pandemic from your point of view?
That's a really good question. And I think it's a question that we've been hearing a lot in different podcasts and webinars, right? There's so many opinions. And one thing that I feel, first of all, is that at least in Europe, we are with this pandemic around 1 year now. And these statements or these ideas have changed a lot in the past 12 months. No, it looks like every quarter things change slightly on how people see the industry going further. So, and I'll probably break down on the experience that HiJiffy had with a pandemic to try and answer your question. When the pandemic started in Europe, obviously, first of all, we were super worried with our employees, everyone being safe. So people were feeling uncomfortable in the office. We were already prepared. There's no need for, there's no information within physical servers or whatsoever. It's all cloud-based. So there wasn't a problem to send people home. We already had a policy of working from home. So that was okay for us. Obviously, we still feel that we're lacking some human touch, but that was okay. And that was the first thing that we felt, that we did, sorry. Then after that, what we were worried about as a company was to make sure that the company survived, and that we were able to maintain all people within the team, and adding on top of that, that there was no furlough for anyone, so that we could change things and we could adapt. So getting that done, so financial plan done, and it was hard for everyone within the team. But we got that done, and then finally, and one of the things that we were talking about, what a CEO of a startup does, is this kind of work too, right? Like things appear and you're unexpected and you need to have a plan. And I would say that until I had the plan finished, it was quite difficult to sleep, because it's challenging when you have other people depending on that plan. So we got that done as founders, and we were much better. And after that, one thing that came up was, okay, everyone talks about crisis, and that in big crises, there's big opportunities. So we need to understand what's our opportunity, or we'll just lay dead for the next 12 months, one year and a half, because it's the time that this pandemic will take. And we understood that hotels with less staff, with most of their staff in furlough. And on the other side, less guests, but guests with a lot of questions around cancellation, a lot of questions around wanting to know if the hotel is open, a lot of questions to know about staycations, for example. We have hotels in Southeast Asia that started way ahead than Europe. And we understood, okay, this is an amazing opportunity of moving forward with a lot of hotels that were within our pipeline, and it wasn't a big priority for them to automatize their customer care. And I always like to give an example that is a chain in Spain that is Bahia Prince. Basically, they I think they hired us, let's say, or they signed the contract in April 2020 because they had most of their team, their reservation team, in furlough. And they had no other chance or no other idea at that moment than to move forward with HiJiffy to have an answer, quick answer for their guests that were already thinking about their holidays for summer and that wanted to communicate with the hotels in April. And that's quite normal. So we managed to close major chains. And having this said, or our story within the pandemic, what I feel regarding the industry is that there is a lot of opportunities right now for hoteliers to look through their current operations. And I break down not talking directly into tech, but really rethinking the operations now that they have, in terms of number of tasks to do, it's quite low right now. It's going to increase for sure. And rethink the operations on how can they automatize certain processes, always with the goal of having a personalized guest experience, meaning that the personal touch, etc., it's really important, but never forget about personal touch versus real-time response to at the same time. And I'm not talking only about customer care, but other things that they need to attend to, and the real-time response is really fundamental. So people will continue to be essential within the industry without any doubts, but let's put people on the places that they really need to be and not on repetitive tasks that they do every day that nowadays can be automatized. And let's put people where they really have a great return on investment and that they make the difference while being front to front with the guests, or while talking directly with the guest and having time for those moments of, let's say, small talk with the guest and the guest feeling special. And that's the way that we at HiJiffy see the industry, is that there's a huge opportunity for technology to be a breakthrough and a huge turnover for the industry right now. And that hoteliers have the time right now to analyze this technology.
And the challenge is that very often they haven't, or historically, the industry is not famous for investing either in training and talent development and technology. So being a tech company, how hard or how easy it is to try to make the hoteliers understand the need of that kind of service or tool?
Pablo, it was much, I would say it was much difficult before the pandemic, before COVID. And it was something that we were not aware of, or that we thought it would be completely different. Meaning, before that, most of the markets that we were targeting were within records after records of revenue. So that normally is good and bad, meaning that it's good because obviously our potential clients are doing a lot of money, so that's great. I mean, a lot of revenue coming in, but adding on top of that, to when you're trying to cut costs and optimize processes, it's difficult to convince people when they see always the revenue going up every month. With the pandemic, what happened was, first of all, hoteliers had more time to speak, more time to learn, more time to understand, more time to research, more time to give feedback. All of those things, obviously, as the operations were not overloaded, they had time. And time is fundamental to analyze technology and to take decisions. Secondly, if it was only the time, that wouldn't be enough for us. We had to have the needs adding to the time. So there was a clear need of, okay, we're going through a crisis. I need to do something different. And I need to make sure that, obviously, I'm trying to, as much as I can, to get out of this crisis. I know that this crisis impacts everyone, but I know if I'm smart, it will impact less on me. And it's something that I need to be careful with. And a lot of them really saw that need and looked for technology to better solve that. And adding on this need, one thing that I felt that the industry wasn't prepared was the social distance, because you have a lot of hoteliers always saying, and it's something that I truly respect, and it's something that I believe in too, that is the personal guest experience that is fundamental for someone to feel special. But all of this was around face-to-face, meaning that technology wasn't still on a phase where you had it implemented around the during stay. It wasn't within a scale, and right now they don't want to go or be there anymore, and they want to make sure that they have digital channels to communicate better with their guests pre, during, post stay, and to be able to deliver this guest experience through digital channels, face to face, but already be prepared for any need of social distance. And it's something that I think will be always in our minds on how can we implement the guest journey with social distance, but still delivering a fantastic guest experience.
Yeah, true, because I mean, social distancing is probably here to stay, at least for a while. You were saying now during the pandemic, hoteliers had more time to listen, to learn, and also to adapt to technology, but not everyone has done that. So obviously, from the revenue point of view or the long term, the ones who've been investing themselves or on their teams in learning and technology are going to be with a clear advantage above the rest, right?
Right. I agree with that. Obviously, we always need to take in consideration that depending on the size of the hotel, then you have different sizes of potential investments. And I respect independent hotels and small hotels that don't have the budget really to be investing. But there's so many things that you can do nowadays, even through learning and understanding and going through free webinars. We saw so many contents being delivered for free that I just want to make sure to whoever is listening to this podcast that there's a lot of things that you can go without having to invest that much. For example, I was giving the example of Bahia Príncipe that's implemented during the pandemic, our technology and other technologies. I really believe that there will be ahead of their competition. And while implementing a new one, while going from an old software to a new one or to something manual to a new one, there's always the time to adapt. I just saw that while changing the CRM that we use at HiJiffy. So we changed the CRM from the sales team. And obviously, when you change from one thing to another, or if you didn't have anything and you go to something new, you need to have your sales team, our sales team in this case, or whoever in the hotel, to adapt to that new technology. Doing this when the operation, in terms of number of tasks, is low, it's great because people do have time to better understand. And it's so important when you adopt a new technology to have time to understand it, because if you implement it and understand it wrongly, it will be that way. So the foundations I was talking about, HiJiffy, I mean, the foundations of that technology within the hotel will be wrongly adapted. So then it's really difficult to correct that in the future. And probably you're investing in a technology that you're using wrongly. So what I saw within the clients that we've closed and that we're closing is that they're taking the advantage of having the time to implement the technology to make sure that their machine, let's call it a hotel, a sales machine, that their machine is well aligned in terms of processes and it's super efficient. And when when bookings go again up and the number of guests within the hotel goes again up, they already have everything well aligned, cutting costs, being super efficient, and having tools that will bring their return on investments bigger and bigger each day. So I'm sure that in terms of margins, they will be much better than their competition.
Yeah, it's a great point. You were saying before, for example, in terms of the people, make sure you have the people in the right places so they focus on the customer and then they don't waste their time doing repetitive tasks, which is another way of investing resources, in this case, the talent. So make sure that you have the tools, like yours, for example, at the right place. And it was a good time, as you were saying now during the crisis, to utilize that time to implement it properly. It's smart in that sense for hotels to take the opportunity. Let's go into the well, you have your experience, you created your companies, so I think you can give some advice to young people maybe studying now hospitality management or any sort of education. They're considering, wow, was it the right decision? Is it a good path to follow? So what kind of advice could you give them from your point of view?
First of all, I've been mentoring a lot of people that right now are within the university, or even people that were working within hotels are now looking for a job, and they're trying to move from, let's say, from the hotel side to the tech side, and they have a big question mark on how can I make that move? I mean, how can I change from hotel to the software provider? It's something that I'm always looking forward to, but I was never able to do it until today. And one thing that I always have in my mind is that this is temporary. I mean, the travel industry will not disappear. People are all talking about traveling and that they want so much to travel again and that they're looking forward to travel. And everyone is in the starting point and wanting to run and wanting to go to travel. So this is something temporary that obviously the recovery will start to happen probably, I would say, third quarter, fourth quarter of this year. We will already see good metrics. That's what I expect. And so regarding the decision being a good decision or not, I mean, if people are passionate about it, there will be a market, there will be companies, and the market will grow for the next years for sure. So, and adding on top of that, I really think that it's not a question of if it's a good decision or not. It's a question of how can I adapt? What did change within the industry since I took this decision of studying to get into the industry, and now, because things changed, there wasn't the travel industry went through an acceleration program of 12 months that it changed completely. So how can I adapt to that? And I really believe that, and it's something that we've been talking about more and more, is that the tech needs to get closer to universities, because there's a huge revolution within the travel industry. There's a huge tech revolution, So meaning that this gap of what we were expecting within the travel industry as a roadmap, as a tech roadmap for the next 5 to 10 years, it just came to us after 1 year. So meaning that it was much faster than anyone was expecting. And this gap that we got shortened with the pandemic needs to be done too within universities. So they need to get closer and closer to tech. And adapting to this means getting to know the tech stack that is needed within hotels, and getting to know what and how I can implement technology for the new needs of travelers. I think that's really, really important. How to do it? Getting closer to tech startups, I would say. I think there's a lot of interesting scale ups right now that have internships, that even have junior positions. You could get closer to the travel industry and to the tech community that is around the hotel industry. And I believe that's a way of going. But even reaching out to product, whatever your passion is about, product, sales and marketing, customer success, whatever, you could reach out to someone within one of these tech companies and trying to understand better what's being done. And there's people reaching out to me, and I'm always happy to help and to have a quick call on my opinion and how they could do things better, and passing out my experience. And yeah, that's basically it.
No, and it's a great message, because I was just saying, it shouldn't be the clients. The way I understand your answer is, it shouldn't be the clients knowing more about tech that the hotel. Should be the other way around. So the hotel should be knowing more and being on top of things, so they can lead the way and use that technology that is available for the clients.
Yes, yes, and adding, yeah, I totally agree with you. And there should be a partnership within tech and the hotels, meaning that I feel that a lot of times tech knows a lot about tech, and hotels know a lot about their operations. So, and sometimes it looks like the tech companies and the hotels speak different languages, because one is always talking about operations, and others are talking only about tech and how they can do something fantastic, but sometimes that hotels don't need to, that they don't need that technology or don't need that solution, etc. So that's where I feel, and fortunately, and as a strategy too, we have within HiJiffy team people that worked already in hotels, and it's something quite important for us. It's where I feel that there's a need of these people that are entering the industry to try to be halfway. Halfway meaning that, okay, you could go through a hotel career and be within the operations of the hotel, but try to better understand technology and try to see technology as something essential for your day-to-day work.
And break the silos. I think even within the hotels, you have those silos. So you have sometimes revenue doesn't speak with finance, doesn't speak with sales. So if you already have that within a hotel, even more between hotel and tech, because tech and distribution, for example, yeah. So yeah, it should be more a collaborative sort of work. Agree. True. Okay, that was all the questions that I have from my side. I don't know if you have anything else to add in the last point from your side, Tiago?
Yes, I do. Around the industry and how the industry is gonna, what we're about to do at HiJiffy, or even how we see the industry as next steps. I truly believe that the industry is going through a huge technological revolution, and that people need to take this into consideration, I would say seriously, meaning that things changed forever, and that we felt that the industry, as any other industry, wasn't prepared for this huge revolution. But I feel that the industry actually rapidly adapts, and that there's still a long way to go, and a lot of things to do, and that connecting the industry is really fundamental, and that this connection can't be only person to person or face to face, but it needs to be done through technology. And that's our vision at HiJiffy. We're starting with hotels, but our vision is to connect the travel industry with people, and we want to do it through technology, and so that everyone from travelers to the industry is able to connect through digital channels. And I believe that we're gonna go and through a fast recovery, and I believe that starting this year we're already gonna see the metrics bumping up. It's really scary I know for most of our clients, because things change completely on the last minute booking, right? So there is no even the way that there was a preview of what was going to happen in the next 6 to 12 months change, because people are booking last minute. But we're already seeing the metrics going up, and we're quite happy with it.
Good, positive message. Sorry to end. Connecting people through technology. Like it. Yeah, another big sentence in there. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Tiago, for your time. It's been very kind of you. Go give all these insights. I was taking notes, which I always share together with the recording. So again, thank you, and stay in touch, okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Pablo.
That was all for now. Hope you found it useful. Remember that you have more information on our website, www.torresconsulting.co.uk, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and Twitter. Stay well. Goodbye for now.